Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Copper Jacket TV. So today we're going to be talking about a topic that shouldn't be controversial, but for some reason it is. Today we're going to tackle the question, why do people hate on Glocks so much? So let's get to it. This channel is proud to be sponsored by the USCCA. I myself have been a member for the past 5 years now, and USCCA is an extremely valuable membership to keep in your wallet that provides you with self-defense liability insurance, a concealed carry reciprocity map, online education and training, and so much more. They even offer spousal benefits as well. So definitely check it out. USCCA will be linked down below. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about why people hate on Glock so much. And we're not talking about just your standard, I don't like that pistol, or, it just doesn't work for me, or maybe I don't like the looks, or, whatever your basic complaint is about a standard pistol. I'm talking about there are groups that are dedicated to hating on Glocks. I mean, you'll see it all the time. You'll see stickers and memes and pictures about Glocks. Well, why is that? Glocks are super popular. They're popular all over the world, and they've been around for decades. They're tried and true. They've been used by the military. They're used by law enforcement. So where does the hate come from? Now, I know this might make some people upset, but I gotta be honest, after years of reading blogs, posts, forums, and comments that have been left on my videos, a lot of the reasons why people hate on Glocks are stupid, trivial stuff. It's things that you might find a problem with in just about every other pistol, but for some reason it's been directed at Glock. Now, one of the biggest reasons, I think, is just because of Glock's slogan, which is Glock Perfection. When you say something has perfection, it's going to get picked apart. And it's going to get picked apart more than anything else, because perfection is perfection. And I can tell you right now that while this is a great pistol, it is not perfect. And I can tell you that for a fact. Until they come with metal sights, at least, we can't even start talking about Glock perfection. The plastic sights that they ship out with, to me, are subpar. Are they bad? No. Are they terrible? No. Are they great? Also no. Okay, they're just good, but they're nothing super special, and they've broken before. I mean, I've seen people break them, racking them off something, maybe a truck bed or whatever it is, but they're not perfect. And so when you say Glock perfection, you're going to get a lot of people being super critical of everything that pistol has to offer. Now, the first reason people hate on Glock so much, other than the whole perfection thing, is going to be because of its looks. There's a lot of people out there that just cannot stand the blockiness of a Glock. It's got these very kind of squared off edges, and it is very blocky looking. Now, for me, that's actually one of the things I like about it. As guns get more and more design heavy, and machining gets better and better, for me, I kind of like the blocky, very simplistic look of a Glock. But there are people out there that just can't handle it. And they can't handle the fact that it's pretty much stayed that way since the very beginning. Glocks, if you take a Gen 1 and you take this Gen 5 right here, and you put them side by side, there's really going to be minor differences. It's going to have that same kind of blocky style with that same hump in the back. So there are a lot of people out there that just simply hate Glocks because of the way they look. Now, for me, like I said, that's totally trivial. If I pick a gun up and it goes bang every single time, I know it's reliable, I know that it's accurate. I don't care what it looks like. I know that it's a good gun. And so for me, looks are always kind of last on the list, but there's some people that just can't get by it. Now, the next reason is kind of interesting. This one is kind of generational. Some of the hate for Glock has been passed down from father to son, and a lot of it is just because it has a polymer frame. People call it a Tupperware gun. Back in the 80s and 90s, the whole polymer frame thing wasn't as big as it is now. Just about everything hitting the market these days has a polymer frame, and then maybe they'll come out with a different version that has an aluminum frame or a steel frame, whatever it is. But people, again, back in the early days of Glock, didn't like the fact that it had that lightweight polymer frame. They just didn't trust it. And so that's something that's been handed down, and there's still people out there who do not trust a polymer frame. So again, that's something that started when Glock came out, and there's still people out there to this day that do not like the polymer aspect of a Glock, even though it's been proven to be reliable and something that does, I think, add some benefit to the pistol. Now, the next reason people hate on Glocks is actually kind of funny, but I totally agree with this one, and that is the generational differences between Glocks. Glock is notorious for making very small changes to their pistol. It's usually something in the frame, and calling it a totally new generation, okay? So if you take a look at Gen 1 Glock and this Gen 5 Glock 17 right here, they look very similar. And the changes between the Gen 1 and the Gen 5 are extremely minimal, but for some reason this one is, 30 or 40 years down the line. So there aren't that many changes that are made between each generation. Now, between a Gen 1 and the Gen 5, you have, the fact that you can add a light to the front. The Gen 1 doesn't have any way to add any type of light to it. But really, between each generation, it's these minor things. So they'll go no finger grooves, and then they'll add finger grooves, and they'll call that a new generation. And then they'll say, we're going to take the finger grooves off again, and they'll call that another generation. Or we added a beaver tail, and that's a new generation. Or we added ambidextrous magazine release. That's a new generation. Stuff like that, right? So they'll make these very minor changes between each generation, and they'll call it the new latest and greatest thing. When in reality, it's very close to what this thing originally started off as. Maybe they'll take the front, like you see right here on this magwell, and they'll cut that out so it's easier to strip if you get, a double feed or something where you need to strip the magazine. And then they'll put that back, and then they'll take it off again. And they just keep kind of going back and forth on it. But if you really look at a Gen 1 and a Gen 5, they are very similar. There's no huge changes. I remember how hard people fought just to get an option that had front slide serrations. So getting a change to the slide took forever, and to see those slide serrations on a later generation Glock was huge to people, even though in reality it's extremely minor. So generational differences between Glock has kind of gotten people a little bit fed up. They want something new from Glock, when in reality these minor changes do make a difference, but it's still really the same old, reliable workhorse that it was. Now, the next one is something that I hear all the time, and I'm sure you guys hear all the time, and that is the hump. People hate the hump on the back of the grip. People hate it for multiple reasons. A lot of people say it just doesn't fit their hand, it doesn't feel right, but a majority of the people that hate the hump hate it because they say that it changes the angle of their initial point. So with that hump right there, it does kind of tend to push up like this when you're pointing out. Now, for those of us who shot Glocks for a long time, or, just even gave Glock a chance, it's very easy to simply just point out and you're on target every single time. But for those people that are used to a more 1911 style grip, or maybe a SIG grip, or something that's a little bit more traditionally up and down, right, at a different angle without that hump, they pick up a Glock, and when they point it out, it's like, right? They point it out, things like that, and immediately they just say, nope, I don't like it, that's it, I hate that freaking hump right there. Even though nowadays there are some back straps that'll kind of tone that down, or you can just send it off to somebody who does stipple work, and they'll kind of shave some of that off and make it a little bit more flat for people who want that different type of grip angle. But that hump is a big one for a lot of people. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about the last couple things. And I kind of want to preface the last things by saying Glock is a fantastic gun. Regardless of what people say, it is perfectly accurate. It is reliable. It's obviously, as you know, one of the more reliable pistols that's out there. That is due to some of the lower tolerances that this gun has. It's not super tight. It's not super tight. It does have a little bit of wiggle in it. It's got a little bit of play, but that's kind of what helps it run and run and run. I mean, you'll put these things in a range that has rentals, right? And they'll run these things for 100,000 rounds and maybe change out a guide rod spring or something like that. They'll just go and go and go, and they'll go every single time. So they're perfectly accurate and they're reliable. And I honestly think if you're somebody who's on the fence and you got one, I think you made a good choice. They're not what the latest and greatest thing that's out right now, but I think that they would definitely get the job done, and they're trusted by a lot of law enforcement officers around the world, and they're trusted by militaries, and I think they should be trusted by you. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the last things kind of that people really complain about. One's going to be the trigger, okay? So a lot of people out there just do not like the trigger. It is kind of spongy, it's kind of gritty, it's not the best thing in the world, doesn't have the best take-up and so forth, and it does have in the trigger shoe that little safety mechanism that pushes back into the trigger shoe, but it doesn't always recess all the way back. So it really feels like you're kind of pulling on this little piece of plastic that can kind of get into your finger if you've been out in a range all day long. But it's very doable. You can kind of tell where that wall is, especially when you get used to your pistol. You can tell where that wall is, right? It's kind of gritty. The reset, not too bad. It's not super short. It's not anything fancy. But again, it's not too bad. So it's not a perfect trigger. It's not the best trigger, but it's not the worst trigger either, and it'll definitely get the job done. We already talked about the polymer sights on there. Those are very easy to switch out. Now, another reason why people hate on these is just because of the Gucci guys. There's guys who will turn these things into transformers. I mean, I myself have made some pretty crazy looking ones where I've done everything from the stipple all the way up to the top, swirls and laser engraving and different colored barrels and, you know, threads with all sorts of stuff at the end. I mean, I've tricked out some of these to the point that you wouldn't even believe. And it's fun. That's part of the hobby. But the people out there that are true, you know, don't modify your guns, they just like a black gun type thing, those guys, they make them hate Glocks altogether just because of the aftermarket availability. But you got to remember, if you get one and there's something that you don't like the sights or the trigger or something like that, those parts are available. I mean, the availability for aftermarket stuff for this is unparalleled to anything else that's on the market. The holsters that are available for it, the lights that are available for it, the accessory, I mean, there's more available for this than I would say everything else put together. So if you take everything that's available for a SIG or anything that's available for any other brand and you put all of them together, I still don't think you have as much aftermarket support as you do on a Glock. And I think that's great because you can find just about everything you want should you have an issue, and it's very easy. It's also very easy to work on, very easy to take down, very easy to clean. And so for somebody who's kind of new to things, it's easy to maintain. That's kind of a big issue, whereas a lot of them, you know, there's some really crazy takedown procedures out there. This one does not have that. It's very easy to take it down and so forth. So anyway, well, I think a lot of the reasons that people don't like these are very superficial, and I think they are really in reality kind of stupid. There's a lot of people that just hate on Glocks, and I think that those are the reasons why. Whether they're stupid or not, you know, whether or not I believe they're stupid or not, they are people's true beliefs, and it makes them absolutely hate this thing. So for their reasons and for those reasons, people will continue to hate on Glock. I think that, you know, that's just going to be the way it is for the history of Glock until Glock makes a big change in their overall pistol design and internal components. If they just keep changing the grip and making those small changes to the lower frame of this pistol, nothing will ever change. It's just always going to stay that way. So anyway, I want to thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like, subscribe. You guys have a great day.